Hello there and welcome to another episode of Book Journey Mentor Uncut. Thank you so much for joining. If you're watching live, please say hello, tap the screen, show us some love. And if you're watching on the replay, please type in hashtag replay. So we have a really exciting show for you today. But if you're watching for the first time, who am I? My name is Daniela Bleckner. I'm an author, book mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with authors from all over the world to help them to get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of professional books. Behind me, on these little bookshelves here, are just some of the 77 books that we've published over the last 4 years. I'm absolutely passionate about giving a platform and a voice to unseen, unheard authors so that they can share their stories authentically, inspire, educate and empower the generations to come. So welcome to the show. This show is called Book Journey Mentor Uncut. It's a show where I interview up and coming, new and established authors. It doesn't matter whether you're published through Conscious Dreams Publishing or through any other means. It's about getting guests on the show to share valuable messages and stories, but also to give you an inside window into the writing and publishing process so that if you wanted to publish a book, you can be inspired along that journey. I also interview experts in the field. I'm planning to get some more experts on as well to give you a little window into the process to post-book publishing. So today I'm going to introduce our lovely guest, Roy Merchant, whose book is coming out on the 4th of July. It's called 20 Things I Wish I Knew at 20. Look at that beautiful cover. Look at that cover. So this is an interactive show. As you've watched this before, you should know. Please just throw up your questions and we will respond to all of these. If you have any questions for Roy, please go ahead and ask. So, Roy, how are you feeling? You've got your proof copy in your hand. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a really, really great journey and I've enjoyed it. And I'd like to thank you on air for all the magnificent work you've done in actually bringing all this together for me. I would not have known where to start. I write, but the rest of it, I really need help on, and you've been absolutely tremendous, you and the rest of the team, in pulling all this together. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. That means so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. So you were born in Jamaica. Tell us a little bit about your journey over to the UK.
I was born in Jamaica. 11 years old. I'm minding my own business in the Blue Mountains, and my mum and dad decided to send for me, and kind of really change of direction really. So far from kind of being clear about what I was going to do, I was put into a system which I think for many people from the Caribbean didn't work really well for us in those early 50s, 60s. Yeah. It didn't work as well as it should have done. So rather than wasting time, I went off and joined the military. I joined the Navy. I was in submarines for a few years. Spent quite a long time in the Far East. Really just getting to know me. Yeah. And some of the racism was extreme and everything else. And in the end, I decided I was better off coming out. So I left in the early 70s. Luckily for me, I'd done electronic engineering, so I just continued with that. When I came out, I became a manager in a TV rental company. But when TVs got reliable, and you didn't need any more engineers, etc., and most people got wise that it was a waste of time renting. The company died, and I luckily had by then gone into local government. Spent the rest of my career, the rest of my life in local government actually. Came in at a medium level, ended up at a senior level, and retired in 2014. One of the things that I noticed along my way was the way that my people were being treated in some of the shops. Mm-hmm. I have a daughter, and what I mean by that is I resented watching my daughter going to a shop only to be followed around, yeah, almost as if they knew the stereotypic thing about, people are going to steal. And
Yeah.
I got tired of that. So I opened up a internet-based health and wellbeing company. I ran that for 5-6 years, and gave that up earlier on this year to concentrate more on the writing side, which is really what I want to do.
Fantastic.
Here I am.
That's amazing. Thank you. Just as you were speaking, actually, myself and a fellow author, Karen Holder, we're actually putting together a book called Hear Our Voice. And we want to hear from 3 different generations of Black British people and their experiences here in the UK. So we'd love to have your story, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you're currently, I don't know if you want to disclose your age. 71, I thought you're 70.
Yeah,
I know there's people watching right now, they're like, a liar, Mattel, he's not 70. He's not 71. But you've written a book called 20 Things I Wish I Knew at 20. So I wanted to pick your brains a little bit about your inspiration behind that book and what do you feel now as a 71-year-old man? What is it that inspired you to want to kind of go back to 20 and give your younger self some advice?
I think, I mean, the book started really. I was writing a book called Rhythms of My Life, which I'm still waiting to be published. And a large part of that was about my thoughts as I was growing up and as I was watching things and everything else. And I sent it to a book critique, and they suggested that large parts of it came out, and there were some there were some statements in there that would be better off as a standalone. Right. So I took their advice and actually put all of that together and condensed it into one place. And I've spent 2.5-3 years working to hone it, to get it to a place where I'm happy with it. So all of this book comes out of that, and it's a reflection of, if I'd known this when I was 20, I'm not saying my life would have been better or anything else, but I feel I would have had a more insight, more knowledge, more information about how to deal with the system, how to work with the system, how to get the best out of the system. Because a lot of us are we don't know what we don't know.
No.
Yeah. So we stumble and we go on and we go from one error to another without recognizing how the system works, and the fact that some parts of the system is against you, and you have to come up with strategies on how to manage them. Yeah. So that's kind of where the book was coming from, to be honest.
100%. Thank you. You're right. You don't know what you don't know, and it's only through hindsight and learning experience that you can kind of go back and then bring that to your younger self and to the younger generation as well. Thank you. So those of you who are just watching, you have tuned into Book Journey Mentor Uncut, the show that gives a platform for unseen, unheard authors as well as established authors. My name is Daniela Bleckner, founder of Conscious Dreams Publishing, and I am interviewing the awesome and amazing Roy Merchant, whose book, look at that beautiful cover. Do you know how long it took to get the right cover? 20 things, we'll get to that. 20 things I wish I knew at 20 by Roy Merchant. So just giving a bit of background. If you are watching, can you please say hello? Because I just want to make sure that the comments are working. You can see people are on. So say hello, tap the screen, let us know where you're watching from. And please do invite some followers and share this out. That would be so helpful. I really want to give a voice and a platform and for this to reach as far and as wide as possible. So this is Roy Merchant, 71, second book. So tell us a little bit first about your first book. What's it called and what's it about?
My first book was called Walking in the Shadows of Death. And it's 20 years ago. I was basically an assistant director in a London local authority, gathering a team around me to go for the director's job. And it was busy and it was hectic and it was stressful and everything else. And I ended up with something called ventricular tachycardia. I don't know whether it's genetic, I don't know whether it's related to anything else, but that's what I had. And my heart stopped. And after 4 bzz, 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 yeah, it came back.
Wow.
But there was some damage done. And to put it right, I was put on a drug which made it worse, but it saved my life. So, you know, and it took 2 years to actually get the operation that was required to actually to stabilize it. And the professor had to go to America to learn to do it, then come back and do it over here. So it was all of those things. And you go from thinking you're a master of the universe to hope abandoning you.
Right.
Yeah. When it does, how do you reclaim that hope? Yeah. And that's what the book's about. And the book is about the battle between hope and hopelessness and how hope wins. And it doesn't always win. And it won't ultimately win because at some point we die. But, you know, it's about the continuity. It's about how long you'll last. It's about how long you watch your children grow, how much of the things that you'd have missed if you hadn't lived, that you can live. And so that's what the book's about. Yeah. And at the moment, it's available on Amazon, and it's been out about 3-4 years.
Amazing. Yeah. And just remind us of the title again.
It's called Walking in the Shadows of Death.
Amazing. It's a really, really cool, gripping title. Immediately I want to know what it's about. And you've explained that, like, wow. You know, how many people have been on the grid literally died and come back and then had that kind of epiphany moment where you must have really evaluated, reevaluated and self-reflected on your life, but also the fragility of life and the sense that we're not immortal.
And the realization that you're not immortal, the realization that it is 70 years or 80 years or whatever, and what does that mean? What can you do with that? How much of that have you wasted? How much of that have you got to go? And what are you going to do with it? Yeah, and those are the kind of questions that you're forced to ask yourself when you're in that zone. Yeah. And so that's what the book was about.
Thank you. Tasha Dominion says, hey, Tasha and Seymour watching, hello. I was going to say to you said about, you know, how much time have you wasted. We're going to throw this out for you. Do you think there's such a thing as wasted time, or are we sort of perpetually learning? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're either earning or we're learning.
I like that.
We're either learning, we're either gaining, benefiting from it, or we're learning from it. Yeah, so it's one of those two things, and they're the only two states. And if you can find those two states, then those states will propel you to where you want to go, I think. Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. So tell me then, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned
in my life?
And then you've got 20 here and loads more probably. What would you say the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Persistence changes a coal into a diamond. Yeah, it's the persistence of pressure that creates a diamond from a lump of coal. Yeah, nice. And it, you know, we have a saying in Jamaica about the dead foss. Yeah, rather die than give in. Yeah, and it's that kind of mentality for me that creates the pathway that takes us where we want to go. Yeah, a lot of us just kind of fold when pressure is applied. Yeah, a lot of us give in, but you know, each problem is an opportunity to do something else. Yeah, and it's that persistence, I think, that will change things, that makes a difference. So that's the biggest lesson I learned, is never to give in.
Nice, thank you. And what would you say to, you know, the younger generation now? Because although a lot of the lessons, a lot of things that apply to them now, you know, in some ways we could say that time has changed a lot. In other ways we can say it hasn't changed at all. So what would you say, what is the kind of number one key advice you give to young people now?
Persistence changes coal into diamond.
Okay, there you go. Anything else?
It's a journey. Yeah. It's a journey. From 1441 till now, most of us have actually forgotten that before 1441, we were minding our business in the savannas and the deltas of Africa, when some greedy Portuguese came over and decided they could use us to make money. Yeah. And there's a whole track of history that follows all of that. Yeah. Yeah. That's very detailed in the book. But we've been through a lot. Yeah. An awful lot. And I don't think it's something that you can change overnight. No. Yeah. And trying to think with, there's some Superman or some superhero who's going to come up and wave a magic wand and we're all going to be where we're going to be. Yeah. I think, we're doomed to fail.
Yeah.
But we need to decide, what are we going to do with that? Because it is earn or learn. Yeah. So what have we learned in the last 400 years? Yeah. And we also have to put ourselves above all of this, because for me, if there's one thing I've learned, peace and forgiveness is better than inhumanity. Yeah. And I think it's about how we actually move from this place of hate, this place of regret, this place of anger, yeah, to a place that's more useful, beneficial for us. Yeah. And one of the problems we have in our anger, we focus it all on, I don't know, white supremacy, on this, on that, and that, and we forget that ultimately it's about the battle is between the rich and the poor. Yeah, it's about power and no power. Yeah, yeah. And when, in the absence of any black people, powerful white people will use their own. If you think of Australia, if you think of other places where they grab their old prisoners for stealing a loaf of bread and chuck them over there for 7 years, it was never some poor man doing that. It was a rich man doing it his own. So it's about the power. Yeah. Now, how we actually get things changed, how we move things forward, are things that we need to think about. And some people will resent me saying this. Yeah. But if we are all people of Gaia, if we're all beings from Gaia, if we're all the planet's responsibility, it will ultimately look after us. So when you think of it at that higher level, we suffered as black people, but the white people suffered as well. And I'll tell you how they suffered. They lost their humanity.
Interesting.
Yeah? They lost their humanity.
Speak on it.
Yeah, they lost the humanity. And it's about how they gain that back, as well as us learning peace and forgiveness. Yeah, and for me, now is not relevant. It's the future that's important. We've got to walk through this. We've got to walk through this. But like I said right at the start, persistence and pressure changes coal into diamond. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm thinking. That's what I'm talking about in some aspects of this book as well. Yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And just inviting some people because they need to hear this. So people we've got on right now is Jermaine. We've got D Bailey. Hey, big up D Bailey in the Black Bookcase. That was amazing on the 27th. You saw that, didn't you, Roy?
Yeah, I was watching that. Yeah, I was watching that. It was really, really impressive. Yeah, thanks for that. That's brilliant. Yeah. And the star was Daniela. I'm sorry, she was good.
We had Children's Hour as well. So Black Bookcase watching was like a whole showcase of like black publishers, authors. We had performers, spoken word artists. We had our 8-year-old Miami Ray, who was talking about reviewing books. She's our youngest member of staff. We had like 15-year-olds, 11, a 12-year-old boy who'd been writing a book a year since he was 6. So thanks, Steve Bailey, for setting up that platform. That was amazing. We've got Nambitech, hello. We've got Fee Cakes, we've got Vicky, we've got Georgina, we've got Kim, hey Kim. We've got Daniela, we've got Keisha, we've got Dillis, Brap Dillis, and Leah Bailey. Dillis and Leah are 2 of our authors as well. Thank you so much for coming on. Please say hello, tap the screen, show us some love. Do invite some people as well, that'd be awesome. So I'm speaking with Roy, and he's given us some really, a lot of food for thought there in terms of how we can move forward as humanity. And one of the things you said, which was really interesting, was that, yes, as Black people, we to come together more. And I'm going to touch on forgiveness in a bit because it's a big one, but you spoke about, you know, understanding that we're all in a sense victims, and that some white people along the way have lost their humanity, because, you know, a lot of the things that I've seen and that I've come across and got involved in, especially on Twitter, just by simply pointing out, you know, Black inventors and scientists, it was in the wrong forum, but I was completely attacked by white racists who think that their lives are under threat and we've come to take over and we're this and that. I don't know if I want to repeat what they said, but there's a real fear there. And I thought, my gosh, you know, and I can only give it a small amount of my time because I don't want to give energy to that. But I just thought, how do you live? How do you actually walk around and like feeling free and happy with so much hate and anger and fear? I don't understand how you can house that in your body. And so the only thing I had, I don't even have room for anger anymore, because I just felt absolute pity that is your belief, and that is how you walk around, and that is how you treat another human being, because we're all reflections of each other. It's just unbelievable to me. So I do agree with you on that sense that we're all part of I don't know what it's really weird. It's really hard to call them victims as well, because of my own standing. Go on, come through.
It's getting to the point where they are victims. They just don't know it.
Right.
Yeah. Now, once you can move your imagination up to where Gaia is, it doesn't care about things like that. It's just moving.
Can you just explain for people who are watching who might be thinking, what does he mean by Gaia?
For me, Gaia is Mother Earth. Yeah, it's the driving force behind if you think of Earth as a spiritual energy, a spiritual force. Yeah, and the controlling influence within that. Now I'm getting off into metaphysics and everything else, but the controlling influence within that, it's Gaia, who looks after everything on the planet, from the ant to the tree to the human and everything else. And it is, and some people will argue that I'm talking about God, but if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, from a nature's perspective, then it knows what is, what was, what is, and what will be. Yeah, and it's creating its own place in some future place for the planet. Whether we survive it or not, it's irrelevant to Gaia. It will get where it wants to go. Yeah. So that's a kind of energy that I'm talking about. It's like a spiritual energy.
Got it. Thank you very much. If anyone's watching, if you've got any questions for Roy, this is like 71 years of wisdom cutting across 3 or 4 generations. I don't want to just be asking you questions. Please come on and just throw up your questions. I can see them now. So please say hello as well, and let us know where you're watching from as well. So what would you say then, sticking with the subject, that we as a black community can do within ourselves to really create more unity, understanding, and harmony within our own community?
Well, I think within our own community, there's a journey to be made. Yeah. One of the things that we've actually got to find a way through is the kind of psychological warfare that's been imposed on us for the last 300, 400 years.
Mm.
And I resent using the word victim.
Yeah.
Because that makes me sound
Oppressed.
Yeah, I can walk around all day saying I'm a victim of this, victim of that, and accuse an umbrella for doing nothing. Yeah, if I'm not careful. Yeah, so I've got to find another word that express that. Yeah. Now, what I do know is that in the last 400 years, the diaspora that came over from Africa has been subjugated to a level of terrorism that's been unprecedented, yeah, in modern time, maybe with the exception of things that was happening in the Holocaust. It isn't just the Atlantic slavery. We're also talking about King Leopold in Belgium, and 15 million people, that were exterminated there. When you've had that, if you as a baby, 2-3 years old, has seen your mother hung, drawn, and quartered, that will never leave you. It doesn't just not leave you; it transmits itself through your DNA to You end up with PTSD. You end up with all those things that we need to kind of steam out of ourselves. And that's going to take time. There's a reason why a lot of young black men take no responsibility and this is it's a general. I'm generalizing to the point, just to make the point. There's a reason why that happened. There's a reason why some people will take no responsibility. The reason why is because it's too painful. Because every time they went to become a father, they were told no, and they were beaten to the wits of themselves. They were taken away and put in different plantations, and their thought is the only way to protect myself is not to care. You kill love. You have mothers in those situations who would have they know what Massa expect from them. They want big strong men with no brains. What do the mothers do? In order for their children to survive, they provide big strong men with no brain. And those are the things that we've got to steam out of ourselves. So there are things that we have to do, and it's about rebuilding. It's about rebuilding our community as well. And it's not. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is that when we do this, when we create the new me, the new us, the new we, what is it we're actually looking to do? Because and this is more a self-reflection more than anything else. When I was 20 years old, all I wanted to do was to become the biggest, best director, manager in the world. Capitalism, give me some of it. And everything else. And it's only in latter years that I realized that actually that model doesn't work for people. Not if we're looking at progressing and moving forward. We've got to find other ways of doing it. Do we want our children simply to replace what's there now? Do I want my child to become the next Trump? Do I? No, I don't. Do I want him to be the Uber capitalist that cares nothing about the million of people who are dying in India and Africa and other places, but it's got 187 billion and run Amazon? I'm not sure. Do you know what I mean? And somewhere along the line, we've got to reconstruct the whole thing to get it to work for humanity. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. So that's where I'm at. What are we going to do in the meantime? for me, it's like a progression thing. We've got to build an economy. We cannot expect, and I'm going to use this in generalized terms, you cannot expect your enemy to teach your children. Yeah? You cannot, you've got to find ways of actually teaching your children who they are, what their values are. You cannot expect you to have someone else's God and actually look at it and say, that's mine. Yeah? Your God has to look like you. Yeah? And there are things like that. And that's not countering Christianity. Yeah? Because the original Jesus, Jesus, yeah, yeah, was not a blue-eyed Italian. Yeah,
Italian. I don't think it's Italian in the Bible, though, either, is it? Sorry.
The Black Madonna who's in the catacombs in the Vatican happens to be a black woman. Yeah. So your religion has been stolen from you, converted, and painted to look like someone else, and then you're told to worship that God that isn't yours in the first place. Yeah.
So it's about digging deeper into self and finding out our own ancestry and history and heritage and that, because a lot has been stripped away and taken and repackaged back to us in a different way.
There's a reason why the pharaohs have no nose.
I know.
Yeah. There's a reason why they have no nose, because we do not want the pharaoh, the most valued civilization, to have come from black men. We know it come from Nubia. We know it come from the Kush, but we know that. But as far as Europe is concerned, no. These were people from near Europe. Nonsense. Yeah. So, and one of the most galling thing is that it's almost as if we came into existence in 1441, and all of that history before in 41 is gone. Yeah, the people who discovered America, who was going around across the bottom of South Africa to get to
discovered it for themselves. There were people there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we need to teach ourselves. But the other thing we need to do is to sort out our economy. Yeah. Because at the moment, what we do is that we earn the money, we give it to others, and they take it from us and then follow us around the shop. Yeah. And it's about what we're going to do with that. And the black pound is important. A lot of societies that have worked it through, the pound comes in and it stays in there 7-8 times. Yeah, in Tulsa, I don't know if you know Wall Street, the Black Wall Street. Yeah. In the Black Wall Street, that community that white America burnt down in the early 1900s. Yeah, the money that came into that community stayed in there 15 times before it went out. Yeah, and with that kind of thing, 15 times, they were allowed to develop a community which was as strong as anything else America had to offer. But that's just things we need to do. We've got to be supportive. But I've got to say it's a two-way thing. Yeah, because what we have to do is to bring things to the market that we're proud of, that we can sell, that has value and everything else, and not expect because we're black we should be getting.
Yeah,
that's learned. Yeah, and so and this nonsense, this stereotypic divide and conquer nonsense that's been kicking around for so long. Oh, you black people don't know nothing, what them can do, all of that rubbish. Yeah, it's things that we have to get rid of. Yeah, and when we're buying something, we look, and only if a black person hasn't got it, yeah, do we go somewhere else. So there are things that we have to do. Yeah. And a lot of that is we talk about in the book, to be honest. And there's a whole section on some of the things that I think we ought to be doing. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. I'm just sharing a post now, or telling people that they need to come on and hear this wisdom right now, because what you're saying so important. And I'm just going to make sure that I put a link to your book in there as well. Multitasking.
Yeah.
You said so much. You said so much, in terms of economy, education, healing ourselves, taking responsibility for our own healing. I think there's how many worth of generations living within our DNA right now, and so it's I think it's really important. A lot of people, especially people who are not black, it's the past. You move on from there, and they do understand actually the psychological and spiritual effects of what's happening. Every time we see a tragedy or we see another injustice, it does spark that again within you. And you have all of this inside you. It needs to have an outlet, and I think there's a lot to be said for. I know everyone's got different beliefs, but I had to do a lot of ancestral trauma release work. Because a lot of things came up, and all of this is how our ancestors are within us. All of this, the pain and the grief is within us. And I think you're absolutely right. It's up to us to first educate ourselves about that, but also to understand how we can release and let go of that if we want to start to create a new existence, a new way of being.
Yeah. And it's no, it's okay. It's all right.
What do you think then? Humanity, so we're talking about all races, can do to really put an end, and this is a big question, put an end to systemic racism, or really start to work together to create a better world than we see right now. Now we need help.
Two things: stop being afraid, stop being fearful. Because I'm 6 foot tall and black, that doesn't mean I'm going to beat you up.
6 foot tall?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, in my
I didn't know.
It doesn't mean I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to beat you. It doesn't mean that you have to taser me or shoot me. You can talk to me. Yeah, that's one thing. The second thing is it's about the myths that have been created. Yeah, about what a black man is and everything else, and. The third thing for me is about a world which has as much as it needs, but no more. Yeah. So you can have as much as you need, but not what you want. Yeah. Because we've got to find. I know I can see that. What I mean by that is that we need to find a way of eliminating greed.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So not to desire things that are unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, you can actually have as much as you need, because nobody's saying what your need is. But there's a difference between your need and your want. Yeah. And what I mean by that is Jeff Bezos doesn't need
billions.
He might need $1 billion, but he doesn't. He doesn't need 127 of them.
No.
Yeah? If he just took $1 billion, and dispersed the 125 billion resource to the rest of humanity,
imagine
how forward would we go? And if we all did have as much as we need, but no more. Yeah. So for me, that's where we're going, and I think things like the information age, things like advanced technology and IT and everything else, spiritual awareness, development, things like Gaia is important. We need to look after it. Yeah, and I'm not more important than you because my skin color is a lighter shade or a darker shade. I'm not more important than you because 1,000 years ago my great uncle was my great thing was William the Conqueror or anything else, and we're all in this place, trying to make a better place for all of us. So that's kind of some things that I'm thinking about.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about relationships now. So I'm sure we could all give our younger selves a bit of a relationship advice. What would you go back and tell the younger Roy at 20? What were the top 3 things he needs to know?
Oh, I'm not quite sure you want to know what I was at 20.
Daz, if you're watching, do you want to know what Roy's top 3 things that he would have told his 20-year-old self about relationships?
I think I was a little bad boy when I was 20, but as I've grown older, I've realised that it's the relationships we hold, maintain, and keep that ultimately pays dividends in the end. Yeah, I think developing a relationship where you have really good understanding between you, your wife, your children, and the wider family and the wider community are great things to have. I think it's important that we have love, because it's the only thing that makes sense in this universe. Yeah, and for me, it's not about grabbing love or holding it, because it's not yours. Yeah. It's free. Yeah, it comes and goes as it pleases, and all you can be doing is be thankful when you have it. Yeah, and don't try and hold it down, because it'll go. And if you try and hold it down, it converts to hate, and it becomes negative energy. So for me, it's there. Love is its own boss. It will do what it wants and everything else. Be grateful that you spent a bit of time with it. Yeah. And
so we said, have a sort of foundation of understanding. Don't grab onto love, otherwise it becomes hate and then resistance. And number 3,
I think number 3 for me is, when love dies, let it go gracefully. Yeah, when it dies, let it go gracefully. We spend an awful lot of time in recrimination, in demanding, in fighting this, that, and become bitter at divorce and everything else. Let it go gracefully. It wasn't yours in the first place.
That's beautiful. I think we can end on that. That's just beautiful. That's really nice. So if you've been watching, please do, and even if you're watching on the replay, what's been the most valuable? Because I can listen to you all day. You've got so much wisdom. What's been the most valuable golden nugget that you've got from Roy today? Portia's just said, wow. Hey, Portia. What's been the golden nugget that you've got from Roy today? You've spoken a lot. You've spoken about race. You've spoken about unity. You've spoken about economy. You've spoken about healing. You've spoken about your relationships. Heritage, identity, and all of this and more is in his book, 20 Things I Wish I Knew. And all good retailers. It comes out on the 4th of July, and I'm sure Roy is going to put his website into the comments box as well, and get back to your messages too. Your website reveal is when? Tomorrow? When's your website reveal?
We're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to do it tomorrow.
Yay! So you can hop onto his site tomorrow. I'm really excited for you, Roy. Tell us just briefly, people who haven't published a book, tell us a little bit about the journey, what you enjoyed, and maybe one challenge.
I think I kind of enjoyed the whole process. It was fun. Yeah. Like everything when you're publishing a book, there were kind of hanging on moments and stuff. But I think you have to learn patience, and you hope that the product at the end pays off. I think one of the things I really, really enjoyed was us creating that book cover. Yeah. It took its time. We knew we didn't know where we wanted to go, but we didn't know.
I always said, "Hey, Joe."
Yeah. So that was great, and when it all came together, and I looked at it, I thought, wow, yeah, the effort was really worthwhile. Yeah. So it's been a great experience. There've been frustrating bits and pieces, but then I think everything, if you're going to create
things, wasn't there, with the cover was shown backwards on Amazon, and it was just taking ages to get the company distributors to turn it around again. But we're there now. We're there. Thank you. You've been an absolute joy to work with. Thank you so much for spreading your wisdom today. And do you feel a little bit healed now? You've kind of given that advice to your 20-year-old self?
I think that journey was really, really good for me. It was cathartic because it wasn't just about giving it to myself. It was also recognizing that their thoughts are valuable. Yeah, but sometimes your thoughts just run off into different places, and when you can bring them back and it still makes sense, you think, yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, but it's been good, and getting the book out, and you dig deeply in terms of your thoughts and stuff. When I was writing those, they were very, very deep thoughts about some of the things. So I'm really pleased I've been able to find the words, yeah, to get them down in a way that makes cogent sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is the first time I've actually met Roy. We've never met in person. This is the first time I've actually spoken to you on camera. I've only seen one picture of you that we've been using, 2 pictures that we've been using for the bio. So this is new for me to see you and hear you, you know, give your wisdom personally. But also just want to show that things can be done. You know, you make use of the resources you have. You know, we've created a book together online without having ever met each other, and it's just beautiful. And it's a beautiful book, and the hard work and effort and the heart and soul is in this book. So I've put a link to the book in the comments. Please do get a copy. If you know someone who's 20 especially, this is a perfect gift for them. So Roy, thank you so much. It's been amazing to have you. Thank you everyone who's watched. We will get back to all comments. Any final words from you?
No, that's it. Thank you very much. It's been really pleasurable. Really enjoyed it. Okay.
Thank you. Next week, we've got Sophia Myers, who is the author of Curly Kyla, a beautiful children's book. She's also founder of Afro Impressions. I'm actually popping over to Instagram now, where I'm going to be on Siblings Talk. Her brother, her brother is Richard Blackwood, so we're going to be on his platform, which I think is @Rich. I don't even know. I think it's @Richard Blackwood. That makes sense, doesn't it? But I'll double check. And we are going to be speaking about education, representation. Richard Blackwood, yeah, there you go, on Instagram. So I'm going to be interviewed. I'm going to be speaking about representation in children's books, history, and education. So please follow me over there to Instagram. I'll be there in about 10 minutes. I'm just going to eat quickly, and I will see you there. Have an awesome evening. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Daniela. Brilliant.
Thank you.